and welcome to CCM Discovery. I'm Roger St. James, and I'm glad you're here. Now, this is a place where we slow down a little bit and we talk about the stories behind the music that shapes our faith. Now, here, nothing is rushed, nothing is polished to perfection, as you well know. It's just honest conversation about creativity, callings, and the way God shows up in the middle of real life. Now, each episode, I am lucky enough to sit down with some artists, worship leaders, authors, and folks behind the scenes who are figuring things out just like the rest of us. Now, we talk about what inspires them, what challenges them for sure, and their walk with Christ, and how it shapes the songs, the words, and the music they share with us. Now, my hope is that as you and I listen, we're going to hear something that encourages us or gives us a fresh way to think about our own journey. Now, so settle in, take a breath, and let's explore together. This is CCM Discovery, and I'm Roger St. James. Now, that is just one of the promos for the upcoming festival called Breaking Darkness Music Festival in Hickory, North Carolina. And today we have one of the people behind the scenes, the man who put that all together. Please welcome Seth Olson to the show. Hi, Seth.
Hello, hello. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being here. It's really going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this. Now, you are the driving force behind Breaking Darkness.
That's
So
great.
there's a lot of ways I want to go with this, but first, we always have to ask you and every one of our guests to fill us in the people behind the people. Tell us about your family. Tell us how wonderful they are.
Yeah, I have a great family. I've got 3 kids and a wife, and my kids are kind of older now and finishing high school and into college and that kind of thing. My wife is a teacher, and we all have just regular jobs. I work for a furniture company. I do a lot of design and graphics and things like that with a lot of different clients as well on the side. Um, So basically, we also do a side thing on that. We have a band. So we're in a band called Counter, and we're one of the bands that plays in the festival. And so that's kind of related to how it all got started.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that together. You and your wife are in the band Counter, and you have performed every year at Breaking Darkness, and this is the third year, I believe, that you
That's
guys.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, where did this idea come from?
Yeah. So it kind of came from a few different kind of things. I was thinking about it, a while ago, how one time I was at church before I kind of started the band, and how my pastor was talking about a message about going out and doing things and reaching people. And so that kind of, I think, got in the back of my head and got to some of the songwriting that we started doing. Because at first I started writing music for church, but then it was just a little too aggressive. So I realized I didn't want to do music for people who believe. I wanted to do music for people who don't believe. And so that's what we started doing. And then we started playing shows all around the area and bars and things like that with just different bands. And then it ended up that I got in contact with some other artists like Undefeated as well as the Tricord, and they were talking about coming in town. And so I was thinking about setting up a little show with them, just at a small kind of venue type thing. And then I just kept praying about it, and the Lord was just telling me, no, not small, something really big. And so it just went from there, and I didn't even really know what I'm doing as far as getting it going. And luckily, Maine with Tricord, he had the phone number for people with Seventh Day Slumber, and so that's why I really wanted a big band to headline it. And so I just called them up and got it going.
Yeah, and that's what I want. You've had, big bands there. I mean, you've had Seventh Day Slumber, Madeline Rose, Disciple, Ignescent. You've had some big bands there, and that's not going to stop. We'll jump into that a
Yep.
little bit later on. But now you have it at from what I've been told, and I was talking to Matt Sassano about it, and he really likes the premiere. And
Yeah.
that's what you guys are having the event. Tell us a little bit how that connection happened, or how God let that connection happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really amazing. So the first year of the festival, it was at this other civic center venue that we rented, which was an interesting and nice venue. The only issue, though, was that they didn't really have great built-in sound and lighting. So we were just kind of relying on Seventh Day Slumber for some of their gear, which was fine, except it's all, super targeted for what they're trying to do. And it was hard to have other artists use that gear type of thing just because of the way it's programmed and that kind of thing. So in the second year, I was looking to move into a different kind of place where every band would have just an incredible sound and light thing. And the great thing about this venue, the premiere, is that the owner, his main business is a sound and light company called Codex, which he runs out of that same building. So that's his main business, and the music venue is a little side business. So all his great sound and lighting, all his great techs, they're in there for every show. And so that's how we worked it out. So when we had the event, I had a sound, and would same for this year, have a sound guy on staff on site all day long, and a lighting person manually running lights all day.
That must make
So it
it
works great.
even. I mean, it's great for you, but it also makes make it even better for the bands to
Yeah,
they're coming
yeah.
in
So
and dealing with a professional.
yeah, so the bands just love it. Like I said, the sound and light you hear for the very first band is equal to the headliner.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so
Now,
you can't you can't beat it.
when you're choosing your bands, I know I would imagine because you're. Oh, wait a minute, we didn't say where it was. It's the Breaking Darkness Music Festival,
Yep,
August 1st in Hickory, North Carolina, at the premiere.
yep, and you get tickets at breakingdarkness.com.
Yeah, and I love little surprises.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
great.
there you go. There's the poster.
Yeah, that's the poster, and that's. So what we're going to pop that up during the show as we're chatting,
Yep,
and what I want to do you focus on local bands? I mean, I haven't dug deep into the bands that you're going to have there, but
yep.
how is the local scene in North Carolina?
It's really strong, especially actually I kind of consider it like North and South Carolina. It would be kind of what I
Okay,
call the local region for this. Maybe a little bit Tennessee, but more those two states. And so originally, like the last year of the festival, if you look through that, a lot of those bands were from North Carolina and South Carolina. Probably even more than this year. So there's kind of like three defining things that I kind of use to make decisions. And I have some really great people like Jenny Sorrells and Glenn. They're involved with helping me kind of weed through the bands and kind of figure out which one kind of aligns for what the festival is about. Um, but basically, the three criteria I would say are kind of regional bands. So that would be like a Carolinas band or a Tennessee or some, somewhere close to the region. The second criteria would be kind of like a legendary band. So, for example, that was why we got Disciple last year and Seventh Day Slumber and things like that. So I usually try to get it. So this year I would say War of Ages is really kind of a legendary
yeah.
band, and so I would say is Relentless Flood, and Relentless Flood is also from the Carolinas. They're just from like
Oh,
an
that's
hour away
perfect.
from Hickory, so that kind of fit both bills. And then I would say the third criteria is bands that are just really happening and really have a lot of things going on in the movement type thing, especially a thing like now what's happening a lot with this heavy worship movement and
Yeah,
aggressive worship and things like that.
yeah. I definitely we're going to touch on the heaviness of the music, for lack of a better term. But before that, I want to. How did you get involved in music, and how did your faith start, and how did you merge the two together?
I mean, I've been involved kind of playing music for, since I was a kid and things like that. I would say kind of through kind of later college years and early working years, I wasn't really doing it too much. And then as we got involved with our church here, when we moved to the Carolinas, we were kind of performing in like a little uh, event thing they had going on. And they were like, oh, wow, you guys can sing and play guitar. So then we joined the worship band and we played in our worship band for quite a few years in our church and that kind of thing, just regular worship music. So we're doing that. And then that after doing that for a few years, that's what led to wanting to move into doing our own thing.
And what I like about I have a soft spot for the type of music you're doing. Um, on the show here, we talk to every type of artist. We call it CCM, and that kind of gets lost in translation. But
Yeah.
what it means to me is contemporary Christian music. So what that means is any music that is being played today to me is contemporary. So metal's contemporary, punk is contemporary, worship is contemporary, top 40 is contemporary. So that's how I look at everything together.
Yeah.
But tell people about the music that is going to be featured at Breaking Darkness, because it is not what anybody's ever going to hear on the radio.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
I
It's like
agree they should, but they're not going to.
I was talking to Gene about that a little bit, because I know you guys have that CCM name. So definitely, for a lot of folks that think of CCM, you think of like worship music, of like what
Mm-hmm.
you hear in church and elevation and things like that. That's definitely not what this festival is about. So this is very extreme, very heavy. For people who might not know that kind of music, it's kind of like Skillet, but even heavier than that. And so there's really a big movement happening right now that a lot of people aren't aware of, and it's really penetrating through a lot of the youth, and that's this whole heavy worship and aggressive worship where it's like metalcore, really, really heavy guitars, a lot of screaming and things like that. So it's, a lot of the second half of the show kind of features that type of thing, and it's just reaching a lot of young people. I mean, we had a really big crowd last year. We were like 10, 15 away from complete sellout.
Oh wow.
And it was just great. And so, like the way we do our festival, I'm not really familiar with a lot of other ones, but the way we do ours, there really isn't a backstage area for bands to kind of be away from the audience. So literally, when you're at our show, the bands are performing on stage or they're standing right next to you. And so we have like the merch tables all just in one giant room. And so you can just watch a show or take two steps over and talk to a band. And that's what's happening. And that's really a lot of the kind of collaborative type nature of our show, which is a big part about it. That's maybe a little bit different. So we have a lot of things happening like that between the audience and the band members, as well as a lot of different band members jump on stage with each other. That happened in last year, and
And that's what I think is fantastic. One of the exciting things about having the luxury and the gift of doing this show is I've talked to Autumn Eve and Jennifer from Ignis and Matt
yeah,
Sassano, and you got that group, and I hate to say it like that, but that type of artist is reaching an unreachable group
yep,
of people that I would imagine, and Jennifer mentioned it, Autumn mentioned it, Matt mentioned it. It's after the concert, and like you were saying, it's talking to the fans afterwards
yep,
that you really see the effect that you're having here, Seth. And,
yeah.
and that's this is a group of people who disenfranchised by the church for whatever reason, and you're bringing Jesus to them in a way to talk to them.
Yeah, like I tell people sometimes to paraphrase Greg Laurie, we're trying to be an unexpected event to reach an unexpected audience with an unexpected message of hope and redemption, and that's pretty much exactly what happens. And so you have band people, whether on stage or even on the side, like you're talking about, they're talking to folks and presenting the gospel to them, but not like a preacher is preaching it to them. They're more talking to them like a person trying to save their life. And I've heard this many times, both at the first year and the second year, where you had someone in the audience talking to one of the bands and they were really going saying how much they enjoyed the show and that kind of thing. And then the audience person says, "Are you telling me this is real? What you're talking about, Jesus, is real?" And the band guy says, "Yeah, exactly what I'm telling you." And so there's kind of a reality type conversation that happens there that's, I think, is different than what you might get at a church or things like that.
Oh yeah, and that's what people need to know. That
Yep.
and I mean, a perfect example is I'm not sure if you've been following what's happened with Magdalene Rose
Yeah.
recently,
Yeah.
and I have my opinion on that, but I mean, you know her,
Oh yeah.
so
She played our first festival and
yeah.
yeah,
So,
it was just amazing.
what are your thoughts on how what happened and how it's been resolved?
I mean, I'm hopeful that it is resolved, and if people are apologizing to her, I hope they just go ahead and rebook her. That would be the best thing you could even do besides just apologizing. But I mean, I think the thing is like, because I've shown some of that video of like especially like, for example, Magnan Rose or some of the other bands, Cleansing of the Temple we had last year and things like that, to some people in my church. And I know that music's not their cup of tea, so sometimes their initial reaction is, "How can that be for the Lord?" But the thing is like I tell people is, think of it this way: when you do regular worship music at church, you might have one that's real mellow, kind of maybe even jazzy almost. You might have one that's kind of country sounding. You might have one that's a little rock sounding. So those are all different channels of that type of worship music. This is just another channel. And so my thought is that Christ doesn't care what channels we use. He just wants people brought to him. And so whether it's hip hop, which we actually have this year, whether it's R&B, whether it's, you name it, metalcore,
Yeah,
if you're bringing him to him, that's what he wants.
and everybody has to remember that Jesus was kind of rejected.
Yeah.
People didn't want to hear what he had to say, and I'm glad that it seems to be working out. It just kind of confuses me is why would you cancel her
Yeah.
or any of the band? Didn't you listen to her before you booked her? you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
I mean, a lot of that happens too. I mean, I remember the first year we were doing the promotions for the very first Breaking Darkness, and trying to get on some of these calendars, just even on the websites of some of these Christian stations in the area, and they're like, "Hey, can you edit the photo?" and just stuff like that, which is just so strange. They
yeah,
just
no,
don't
no.
understand.
This is the musician. This is who this is. They are doing what they in their heart believe God is asking them to do.
Yep.
So have the discussion with them. Don't try to change them.
Yeah.
Now you've been doing this for 3 years,
Mhm.
and how have you seen it grow or change in those 3 years? And what have you learned? If you're somebody who wants to get this idea, maybe they're being inspired by what you're doing. What would you say to them?
I would say go and do it. Like I said, I've never booked concerts before. I've never put on a big festival before. But you just start reaching out to people in the area, and find people in your area who may have been involved with this before. That I've been able to do that now with Jimmy and those guys, and they've been able to help a lot, which I'm super appreciative of that. As well as you reach out to a lot of these bands like you were just talking about, Ignessen and people like that. They'll tell you like, hey, here's how it normally goes. Here's how it normally works. Here's what bands, a band like our level, this is what we're usually looking to get paid, that kind of thing, because they are traveling the whole country. Um, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, well, what can I do with that? Where could I rent a venue and that kind of thing. And as you're talking to these different bands and other people, you'll find out venues as well if you're not familiar with that, and a lot of them will do it at churches and that kind of thing. And I could have done that here. We have a lot of churches here. They have a lot of great venues that are pretty large, even with nice PA and that kind of thing. But part of like what I consider, I call it the why. And so that's part of what we're going after. And I know a lot of the people like that. If I had the exact same concert with the same artist, but it was at a church, there's a lot of people who would just immediately check out and say, I'm not coming to the, why
Oh,
would I
yeah.
come to that?
Yeah, yeah.
So for us, it didn't work that way. But, if you were doing this somewhere else and you're okay with that, that would be a great way to do it too.
And now the way you do things though is different. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So let's. I'm very impressed with how you do this because it just really shows that God is driving the driving force behind what you're doing because the ticket sales don't go to the artist, they don't go to the
Yeah.
venue, they don't go to merch, they go right to charity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing I wanted to do when I was first working on it. I was talking to some people in my work and telling them, what the idea of this Christian kind of show. I wanted to get started, and then and I mentioned kind of, I'd really like to give back to some people involved in the area, and they mentioned some of these charities. We have Bethel Colony of Mercy. They're just an incredible organization, and there's several others like that we were involved with that help folks overcome addiction. And so basically what we do is we give away all the ticket revenue to three charities that are involved with that, Christian outreach charities. And so we rely just on donations and sponsorships and things like that to fund the festival.
when you talk about sponsors versus donors,
Yeah.
so to people listening, you just explain that a little bit they'll want to. So when they want to donate, they know exactly where the money's going. Or if they want to be a sponsor, that's a little different as well.
Yeah, well, actually, it all kind of goes through one pot. I mean, to me, I think probably best word to describe it is donations or underwriting for the concert. To me, we do put your logo on our website if you're a business and you donate and that kind of thing. So if you go on breakingdarkness.com, you'll see some of the companies involved that have helped us over the years that are involved in again this year. Um, but also, I do put them on social media posts and mention them and things like that. But, I wouldn't say it's kind of the same thing as if you're going to buy an ad or sponsorship on NASCAR. It's not really like that. It's more about your supporting the mission of what we're trying to do and the folks that we're trying to reach is kind of the key vital thing that it's about. But anyway, so when people do it, the really cool thing is that one of the charities that we give the ticket revenue to is actually the partner charity. So they're a 501c nonprofit. So anyone who wants to donate money, they don't give it to me. Breaking Darkness isn't a business or an LLC or anything like that, or a nonprofit. So they write it out to that charity, which is Recovery NC. And so all your donations are tax deductible. And then Recovery NC keeps a separate ledger of all money that's come in for the concert. And then they write a check from their checkbook to pay for the premiere and to pay War of Ages and things like that. That's how it works.
Okay, so what you're saying is that War of Ages isn't going to be wearing Chick-fil-A jackets up on
No.
stage.
And
And
we
would
have a
you?
little sign, a little thank you sign. But yeah, we don't have a giant, scrolling screen with logos or something.
No, good because it's a concert.
Right.
But one thing you are doing that's kind of cool this year, and I want you to explain, is the vendor village.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's a
that's like
really
a
cool idea.
one unique thing. And so sometimes there's been people who've wanted to be in, at the site with their organization and that kind of thing. And I was kind of able to do that the first year, but venue we're in now, there's a little bit limited on spacing, but I did work out a new way to do it. So we have a outside uh, patio area. It's probably like 50 by 30 feet. And so what I'm doing is basically 8 vendor tents out there. So if you wanted to do that, it's like $200 and it gives you a couple free tickets. We'll provide internet and provide power for you. And then you just need to bring a 6x6 tent. And we're gonna have 8 of those out there. And then you could, hand out information or sell merch or anything like that. So we've already kind of booked out 2 of those slots. So we have
Oh,
6
great.
left.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's a great idea too, because
Yeah.
then it allows even more groups to get to know what you're doing and meeting you and meeting the artists and
Yep.
learning that heavy metal people are just like everybody else. They just have long hair. That's
Yeah.
the only
And
difference.
the audience, I would imagine, is going to be a lot, like going by last year, I would imagine this year will be a similar. And that is, the audience came in and we did this kind of unique thing too, is that we do a giveaway. So we do these swag bags. So this is another way that you can get involved as well if you're a business or something like that. If you had a little coupon for your business or something you want to promote, I'll stick that in the swag bag and we give out 200 of those. So the first 200 people in the door get one of those free giveaway bags. And so that really enables the having really good audience for the very first band. And so that's how it went last year. And we had 200, 250 people right at the very beginning of the show at 1 o'clock. And then
Okay.
it never went down from there. It just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we have 2 food trucks on site plus a coffee truck. And so, you don't really need to go anywhere. And so we had people just grabbing food right there and just enjoying it and then coming right back into the concert and that kind of thing. So it was like a really long, full day thing. People brought their kids and all that kind of stuff. And it was great.
And it leads me. You also have a hotel partnership, which would be
Yep.
perfect to since you said it's a whole day thing. It's not just a couple hours. People want to make a weekend out of it.
Yeah,
So,
we had folks last year who came even on Thursday that
oh
called me
wow.
and told me that I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What?" So they stayed Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. But a lot of people are probably just going to stay Saturday night. And so yeah, with the Best Western, we're getting ready to put that on our website, but you can see it on Facebook. There's a special link to do that, and you just give them a call at that local location, tell them you're coming for Breaking Darkness, and yeah, they're going to give you a really cool deal.
Oh, that's great. You got all the bases covered, and this is really from what we've been talking about so far. You're giving a crash course, and anybody who wants to do this on
Yeah.
what needs to be done, and that you're living proof that it can be done without having a ton of experience behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this event too, I think was part to kind of grow me and just let me give things up to the Lord. And so, you can imagine you're trying to raise, thousands of dollars. I remember the very first year, we had to raise about 7,000 to put that on. And my wife's like, "Where are you going to get $7,000?" And I said, "I mean, how are you going to raise that?" I go, "I'm not going to raise it. The Lord is."
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what we did. And in the first year, we actually ended up with like 500-600 bucks over our
Oh,
budget.
perfect.
So we just put
Yes.
that into the next year.
Yeah, God is pretty good about things like that. You
Yeah.
put your trust in Him, and He'll take care of you.
Yep.
Now I want to mention the bands that you're going to have there on August 1st, and I want to kind of I'm going to name the band, and if you could just give me a quick couple of seconds as why you chose them and what made them a choice for this year. That sound like something you're going to have some fun with?
I'll do my best.
Okay. So let's first talk about Relentless Flood.
Yeah, so Relentless Flood, I would call them kind of a legendary band. They've been around for a really long time, so they kind of check that box, as well as they're from, the Carolinas, so only like an hour away from Hickory. So I've been trying to get in touch with them for a while. Actually, I think I tried to get them in the year before that, but I just wasn't able to put it together. And so, yeah, it worked out great. And so what happened was some of the guys in Set for the Fall who were in it last year, they're also in Relentless Flood.
Oh,
And
good.
so they kind of help connect the dots there when I
Oh, that's
talked to
great.
them last year at the show.
Okay, what about 13 Minutes?
Yeah, 13 minutes. So Jamie leads that band, and they're from over kind of in the Midwest, like Tulsa area, and they're just kind of got a lot going on. They really great rock sound. Been around for quite a long time, like almost kind of a legendary type band as well. And so Jamie also was one of the people who helped me a lot last year with some initial ideas and bouncing things off and things like that, and just kind of keeping me motivated. So it was just kind of a no-brainer to get him in there. And they're touring a lot, so.
Tricord.
And Tricord, so yeah, besides my band, Tricord is one of the only bands that's coming back from last year. And so I met Maine, like I said, he was kind of one of the people that helped me get the whole thing going just because of the idea of playing a show together and that kind of thing. And then he was the one who actually gave me the phone number for the folks at Seventh Day Slumber, and so and just really motivated me to give him a call and just see what happens. And I kept telling him like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? And he gave me some info on that, and that kind of thing. And then so that was really cool. And then, but I would say the real reason I brought them back though, beyond just that, is that when they played, I seen videos of them playing live, and I was excited to watch them when we had them in the show last year, and I think they were the second band or something like that. But they just blew me away, probably more than anybody last year. So that's why I had them back. So that's kind of a vibe, if you blow me away, you're probably gonna come back.
And now we have to mention, of course, friend of CCM Discovery, Matt Sassano.
Yeah, so I've known Matt for a while. Like when we started our band, I kind of learned about a lot of the different Christian artists in the region and what they were doing. And so I had him on my list, and I was just kind of thinking about it. And then the more I was kind of getting into his music over the last probably year or so, I really liked that he kind of had that different kind of sound, a little bit kind of industrial kind of sound, almost, like you might even say like a Nine Inch Nails kind of sound.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really great because I wanted to have a little bit of eclectic mix in there. So that was how he got picked.
And
And he's
then,
from Tennessee, so
yeah, yeah.
not too far.
And that great husband and wife band, Counter. We have
Yeah,
to talk about
that's
that.
home team. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. Hopefully, we're gonna have some new songs that we've been working on, so hopefully, we'll be able to get them out there and before the show and perform some of those.
and something a little different this year. You have Billy James coming.
Yeah, so Billy James is just a guy I met last year who is from right in my hometown area of like Valdez and Morganton, and which is a little town just to the west of Hickory, where that is. And I actually met him as I was going out and doing these different meetups to try to get donations from businesses and things like that. And one of the businesses I talked to, I was telling him all about the concert and his Christian event and that kind of thing. And she was like, "Well, you must know Billy James." And I said, "No, who's that?" And so then I got to know him and started talking to him. But at the point that I had met him, the lineup was filled for last year. So then I was thinking about it and praying about it. It's like, you know what, I could really use as a host. And so I asked him, and so he was the host last year. And so that's kind of the connection. So then we actually did another show with him as well. And I just love his music. I just think it's incredible. And so then I was like, well, I'm going to kind of make it eclectic,
Yeah,
at least the first half. So why not have hip hop?
yeah. And then another friend of ours, Autumn Eve, who I absolutely love her music and her as a person. She's pretty impressive.
Yeah, she has a great story. I think her music's really, really good. I was really impressed with some of the first stuff that she was putting out. She was actually on the list. We were trying to get her in last year because I thought one of the bands was backing out of the show, and so I was kind of like, "Hey, can you fill in?" And so I kind of had that set up, but then ended up that they weren't backing out, so then I wasn't able to have her in. So I was like, "All right, I got you next year."
Oh, perfect. And
That's how that.
Splitcast. Now you
Yeah, so Splitcast is a one I just kind of discovered, and they were on a podcast of a local producer in the area, and they were talking about their story and their faith and that kind of thing, and then started playing some of their music, and I heard it, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is some of the best pop punk I've ever heard," and so then I just reached out to them and got involved with them and got them on here, and so they're actually kind of uniting the old team back. They were active years ago, and and they're getting the
yeah.
whole team. They're actually flying in a bass player from France
Oh, that's
play for the
awesome.
show.
That's a great
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
And that, I mean, every one of these bands that we talked about so far, and we're not done, has made it to my playlist now since I started. Since you were kind enough to say you'd be on the show, I dove into these bands, and they're a lot of fun, and the music is good, and it's quality, and that's
oh
what we.
yeah. And that, I mean, that I would say that's another criteria. Like I was giving those criteria. You got to have really solid music and well produced, and just stuff that really hits hard. And so, like on BreakingDarkness.com, right on the website there, we've got a Spotify playlist. So if you're thinking about coming to the show, may or may not know these artists, just click the playlist and check them out.
Yeah,
I think you'd
and
be impressed.
we are going to tag the playlist at the end of this show, so it will be on this show as well. And of course, we have to talk about War of Ages. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so I was actually, working. There was a few other bands that I was trying to get to headline and that kind of thing. Some really, really huge bands. Wasn't able to work that out. Just dollar wise, just not possible. And then again, like I leaned on Jimmy and Glenn and those guys for some other bands, and I wasn't as familiar with War of Ages as you might think, but they were kind of educating me on that. And then I was checking them out and talking to them, and then also I was thinking about too is like I said, this whole aggressive kind of worship thing was happening, and it's really starting to blow up more. And these guys fit, both into that kind of category as well as being legendary. Um, and so I started talking to them. They were already setting up a big tour, and so that's what
Yeah,
led
no,
to it. So it's just perfect.
yeah. So those are the bands that are going to be there, and it's going to be a great show. And you said the first half could be more eclectic, and the
Yep.
second half be more metal heavy driven. So
Yep,
I
and
think
then Tricor too is they've kind of switched their style a little bit, so they're actually a little bit more like new metal now. So they're kind of like rap and metal kind of put together. So they're kind of the beginning of the kind of the heavy section.
oh cool. That's going to be great. It's going to be a great show, and I'm going to try to get down there.
Yeah, you need to come.
That would be a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be there. And um, I'm going to kind of, my eyes are going to be over here for a second. So I want to read this. It's a quote from Jimmy Sorrells of Soundlink magazine.
Yep, yep,
And it said that Breaking Darkness 2025 was more than music. It was a mission. It was a ministry. It was a gathering of the remnant. A bold, loud, passionate expression of faith through hard rock and heavy metal. Chains were broken, lives were touched, and Jesus was glorified. I
yep.
don't think I've ever read a better
Yeah,
review of a festival.
yeah. And he was right in the middle of it. He was helping to manage the stage and keep us on schedule, which we did. It was pretty amazing. So we only had like 15-minute breaks between bands.
Oh, that's great.
But we stayed right on schedule, and everyone had a great show. I mean, just people loved it. Like I said, there was a lot of collaboration. And you were watching one band perform, and then 3 bands later, that singer from the first band was on stage with this band that you're watching at that moment. So there was just a lot of really cool things with that, where people are like, "Whoa, look at that!" We had people like the Gavin from Cleansing of the Temple. He jumped on stage with one of the other bands, Igniting the Sky, so and stuff like that, and then vice versa. Just tons of that happened.
It's
Maine
got to
jumped
be,
on stage with Ignescent.
yeah, that's got to be so much fun, not just for the audience, but for the band members to
Yeah,
just go up there
yeah. I
and
mean, and I didn't really even know that a lot of them were going to do that. I'd kind of talked to a couple of them about, actually Billy James jumped up there and did some stuff with Tricord. So I kind of knew a little bit that that might happen, but a lot of the other stuff that happened, I didn't even know that was going to happen. And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. That's so cool." And then people, commented on that and just loved it. And the other thing too, like make sure people know is like this is all indoors, so it's got
yeah.
super ice cold AC. So
that,
you don't have to worry about
that's it.
summer heat or anything like
Yeah,
that. This isn't like other festivals where you're outside in tents and amphitheater. No, this is all indoors.
yeah. That's probably very helpful in August in North Carolina.
Oh
It's
yeah.
probably a good thing. Now, I can't imagine how much work this is for you. From the end, midnight on August 2nd until
Yeah.
2027. What what's it like for you? I mean, I can't. So just tell me how it affects you and why you keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of committed to the why, what I call the why. So why meaning like the letter Y. So like, a lot of times people kind of put people in camps of like, oh, you're a believer, you're non-believers and that kind of thing. But see, I don't like, isolating things out like that or dividing it out like that. To me, like if you don't believe, you're the why. So why meaning you're the yet to believe. And so to me, like that's what we're going after. You know, I don't care if you're, maybe you're a Satanist or maybe you're whatever. It doesn't matter. You can still become a believer in the Lord, and He wants you to. He wants you to come home to Him. So, like I said, it's just another channel that we're trying to bring people in. So that's kind of a big motivation with it. And then I love giving back to these organizations too that are helping these folks fight addiction. Just incredible stories of recovery that come from them. The folks from those groups will be there on site so they can tell you about what they do and that kind of thing to get into kind of the weeds on that.
Yeah.
But, really just that's the motivation is like going after the why, like I said, and just trying to make a difference and let people know that, they think that there's no way, but there is a way. The way is the way.
The way,
you know,
the way, the
and
truth,
that's
and the
yeah,
light.
and that's the thing. And you're like I said, you start to realize like this can mean this doesn't just mean something I think about, if I step in a church. This is the day to day, and this is like a guiding light. And like I always say, like everyone's in an ocean. It's like one way I like to put it. And so what I mean by that is like you're fighting these battles every day. And imagine you're actually in a real ocean. Well, if you're in a real ocean, your cell phone's not going to work.
No.
This isn't that's not going to work. So you need like a compass. That's like the only thing so really Christ is that compass for you, and he can show you the right way to go to get where you need to go. So you're in calm waters and you're not out there in that turbulent sea.
That's beautiful. I like that analogy. That's really
Yeah.
poignant and accurate too. Now I'm sure you have a bunch of stories over the last 2.5 years. Is there one particular story that kind of just sticks out in your mind when you think about Breaking Darkness?
Yeah. One of them was that we had a photographer last year that I had at the show. So what ended up happening was I got a few people that I already knew, involved there to come take some photos, some professional photographers that I'd already known. But, there were still some more slots there where I could have another media person. And so just knowing about other people in the scene of this kind of Charlotte, Carolina scene that we play in, just regular shows, not Christian shows, just regular shows. One of the photographers that's really big in that whole scene, I noticed on his social media, he was just talking about how terrible life was and this and that. And he was just real downtrodden about everything. And I said, hey, why don't you come to my show and shoot some shots? We'd love to have you come up there. And I figured he might not have been to the premiere yet, that kind of thing. And I mentioned some of the other bands like Cleansing of the Temple and Saving Darkness that he would know from the scene in that area. And he's like, oh, okay, great. And so he came to the show. And when he was there, he's right up front taking great pictures and that kind of thing. But then basically Jennifer was playing before Disciple, and she gave her testimony and said, hey, if you want to come talk to me, I'll talk to you and pray with you. We're gonna have a merch table right over here. After we're done, come on over. And so later during while Disciple was playing, I was kind of in that area meeting with someone else, and I look over and there's that photographer coming over there and praying with Jennifer and her husband. And so just imagine that kind of thing where that person goes back into the Charlotte regular metal world and says,
Yeah,
I went to this event. It was amazing.
that's
You know,
that's
and
and
and so I didn't really care about actually how much photos he took. That was just a bonus. I just cared about that, what happened.
no, that's and I'm sure there's even stories, many more like that you don't even know about
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that,
There's
that
tons.
just happen between anybody.
Yep.
You have a quote that I love. It said, "Be the thermostat, not the thermometer."
Yeah.
That is so perfect for what you're doing with Breaking Darkness.
Yeah. That's the thing. You're trying to actually create change is what we're trying to do. We're not just trying to say, oh, well, there's a lot of sad people or there's a lot of, lost. And no, come
That,
and
yeah,
make a difference and see what happens. And like I said, you're having this kind of talk where, people are saying, are you saying this is real? This is real? Yeah, it's exactly what I'm saying.
God,
And then we're gonna have churches involved right there. So if you're from that area and you may be talking to an artist like say Jamie from 13 Minutes, he's not from the area, so he can't really tell you about it. I mean, he can tell you about his church, but not really helpful too much. But he'll be able to point you right across the room, and we'll have a church right there that's in Hickory area, and just say,
oh,
hey, go right over there, get plugged in. These guys are going to get you set up.
no, that's fantastic. That's a great thing to have. And again, it's at the Breaking Darkness Music Festival, August 1st, Hickory, North Carolina, at the premiere. We've
Yep.
been running your information on the screen as we've been talking, but if you want to give it to us one more time.
Yep. So it's breakingdarkness.com. You can see all the bands right there, hosted by Glenn Remsen. He's awesome. He does the Lithoscry podcast, and we're doing a lot of interviews with the bands. We're kind of announcing each one with the interview and that kind of thing. So he's going to be helping out on stage with that. Um, and like I said, the doors are going to open at noon. We do have a different ticket levels, so you can buy a 4-pack of ticket, which is probably the most economical if you're coming with a group as far as the cost per person. We do have an early discount ticket, which by the way is running out at the end of this month, so it won't be available after that. It's going to turn into just a regular advance ticket. And then we also have an early entry ticket, so you can actually come in an hour before the doors if you buy that ticket. And of course you get one of those swag bags I was talking about.
And you never know who's going to be wandering around doing sound checks and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so that's what you'll see if you come in early. You'll see sound checks, you'll see people trying to assemble their merch table and things like that. So everything won't be all ready to go. It'll be in the process.
and you'll
But
see.
the reason we did that was because last year we opened the doors at 1, and at about 12:30, the manager of the premier venue came to me and said, I know you want to open the doors at 1, but we've got a line outside of 60, 70 people waiting to come in. So I said, okay, bring them in. But then I was like, okay, for next year, you're going to have to pay a little bit to come in.
No, that's perfect. See, that's you're thinking. You're thinking, and there's a
Yeah.
promoter somewhere in North Dakota watching this right now, going, "That's a good idea." You know, so
Yeah, it's strange because I've been to a lot of really huge shows before, big giant bands at a huge concert, and they always have hundreds of people standing there before the doors open, you
and
know,
that's yeah. I mean, might as well take
at
advantage.
6 o'clock or whatever. He's like, why don't you just let them in early? Just
Let them in the air conditioning. Let them get comfortable. And
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. So
and
yeah,
like you said, you never know who they're going to meet walking around while they're in there.
yeah, and,
Um,
that, and that's the other thing too is that, like you were talking about the hotel at the Best
yeah,
Western. So quite a few of the artists are going to be staying there. So you never know. You might have a room next to your favorite artist.
yeah. You could be having waffles with War of Ages. You
Yeah,
know?
you never know.
Before we let you go, Seth, we do something here that we ask all our guests. My oldest son is a legitimate hero. He's a fireman. And my youngest son, Matthew, is profoundly autistic. And for some reason, 9 seconds means something to him. So we always ask our guests if you would give us what we call Matthew's 9-ish seconds of wisdom. If you could just say something to give some advice, some hope, some encouragement.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of, kind of thinking about something that I was talking to some people earlier today, and actually I wear a bracelet right here. So I don't know if you can kind of see that. It's a little skinny, but
Yeah.
basically it has on there John 4:42. And so, that's about the lady at the well. And the really interesting part of that was that they came afterward after she had told them, and that they said, hey, we don't believe now because you told us. We believe now because we went ourselves and saw it. So that's kind of the thing I would say is related to this event. Don't just believe that this event can cause a change because you've heard that it can. Come and see for yourself, and you'll see what actually happens. So that would be, I don't know if that's wisdom, but
Oh no, no. Oh, yeah, of course it's wisdom. It's biblical. It's wisdom.
yeah,
So Seth, before we let you go, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk
yeah.
to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing with the Breaking Darkness. Thank you for this incredible list of artists that you're going to be bringing there. And I guess I just want to say good luck, and I hope to get down there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And like I said, we give away all the money to these charities. So if anyone wants to donate, if you go to breakingdarkness.com, we're revamping the site a little bit. There'll be a yellow button right on there. So you can just click on that. It'll take you to the donation site, which is directly connected to Recovery NC, which is a 501c nonprofit. And you can fill it out right there and do it online. If you want to reach out to me, I can give you the address to send a check, that kind of thing, because the site does charge a little credit card fee for doing that. And we appreciate that. And then if you're thinking about it, you may want to come, I would suggest you don't hesitate. This venue holds 600 and we only have 350 tickets left. So they're moving quick.
Well, that's great because people want to see Relentless Flood, 13 Minutes, Tricord, Matt Sassano, War of Ages, the great husband and wife band Counter, Billy James, Autumn Eve, and Splitcast.
Yeah. And we do have a special surprise coming up. So I can go ahead and give it to you guys now. I think you're going to air this after
Ooh,
the,
okay. Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So we are adding a 10th band to this festival. So we are super stoked to announce that we're adding the band Convictions to this event. So they're going to be playing in direct support to War of Ages. So that's where they'll be in the lineup.
Oh, man, that
So
is
you really do not
fantastic.
want to miss this show.
Convictions. Wow. That's
Conviction.
awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, they're one of the leaders going on of this whole aggressive worship.
How did you manage that?
Yeah, so it was just crazy. I had actually kind of talked to them a little bit about headlining it, and there was some touring concerns that they were dealing with. They weren't sure if they could even be in the festival and that kind of thing. And in the meantime, I had set up War of Ages to headline, and so I got back with their booking agent, and they kind of checked back in with me and go, "Hey, we can't let you announce this yet because of the tours that we're on, but if you can wait till such and such date, this date of May 9th, then we can let you know that we can be in it, and you can announce it then." And so we just worked it out, a deal there. And so I was
That's
like,
amazing.
okay, you won't headline then. And then they love War of Ages. They tour with them a lot. They're really tight with them. So
Well,
it's
congratulations.
almost like a dual headliner.
Oh, no, that is a dual headliner.
Yeah.
And just think about all the other people that might sneak on stage while they're up there. That's going to be an incredible sight. Now I want to be there even more.
Yeah.
Uh, well, Seth, thank you so much. This has been great, and please keep us updated. Any changes or anything, we'll talk about them. We'll let people know what's going on. We'll put it on our pages because what you're doing is fantastic. You're reaching a group of people that tend to be, I don't think overlooked is the right word, but kind of forgotten about. And
Yeah, it's a lot of the outcasts, people who think like, oh, I can't go to church, I'm not good. Hey man, welcome to the club. No one's good.
no one's good.
Um, so really, that's the thing too is, and they, maybe they're reluctant to step foot in a church. I would say a lot of the people coming to our event. So this is a place they feel welcome, they feel comfortable, and like I said, when they're in there, next thing you know, they're talking with the guys from War of Ages or Mike from Convictions or things like that, and they see that it's real, and then they like, okay, all right, let's go with this. This makes sense.
That's a great tagline for the Breaking Darkness. It's real.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Seth, thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck, and we'll all be praying for you, and hope to get down there. Now that Convictions, come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, Convictions and War of Ages in one show plus another one with bands.
Oh.
I don't know if you
Well,
at
thank you.
$15.
Yeah, I
I
know
mean,
it's and if you get
so
there early, you can go in and maybe meet them and get a swag bag.
yep.
So it sounds like a perfect weekend vacation. So I'm going to have to figure this one out. All right, Seth. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you
All
for
right.
what
Thank
you
you so much. Appreciate it.
take care.
Yep.